Imagine stepping into a Viking longhouse as the day draws to a close. Outside, the Nordic sky fades from pale gold to deep indigo, the last rays of the sun slipping behind distant hills. Smoke rises lazily from the longhouse chimney, curling in delicate spirals before vanishing into the chill evening air. Inside, warmth radiates from the hearth, a central pit dug carefully into the earthen floor. The fire crackles softly, sending gentle flickers of light across the wooden beams above. It is here, in this intimate, glowing space, that life unfolds in its simplest, most essential forms. Children huddle near the edges of the fire, their small hands stretched toward the warmth. Some have been playing with carved wooden toys. Others sit quietly, listening to the low hum of voices, the soft rhythms of life that have persisted for generations. The smell of burning wood mingles with the subtle, comforting aroma of grain being prepared for the evening meal. In these moments, the longhouse becomes more than a shelter. It becomes a center of survival, of family, and of culture. The hearth is the heart of the home, both literally and symbolically, a place where warmth, nourishment, and connection converge. Bread, though simple by modern standards, is central to this evening ritual. Unlike the loaves we know today, Viking bread is humble, often flat and hearty, made from barley, rye, or oats grown in fields nearby. The grains are ground by hand, a labor-intensive process that requires patience and persistence. Every handful of flour is a reminder of the effort invested in survival. The act of bread making connects generations. Mothers and grandmothers demonstrate their techniques. Children watch intently, learning the rhythms of domestic life. In this small, smoky space, bread is not merely food, it is a symbol of continuity, resilience, and the quiet triumph of human ingenuity. The longhouse itself is a marvel of practical design. Long beams of timber stretch from end to end, supporting a roof thatched with reeds and straw. Animal hides line the walls, offering insulation against the biting northern wind. In one corner, a pile of furs serves as bedding. In another, vessels of water and storage bins of grain and dried meat hint at the careful planning required for survival in this harsh environment. The Vikings understood that life in the north demanded ingenuity at every turn, and the longhouse is a testament to that understanding. It is not luxurious, but it is sufficient, designed to protect, to sustain, and to nurture those who dwell within. As you look closer at the hearth, you notice more than the dancing flames. Cast iron pots hang above the fire, simmering slowly, perhaps with a simple stew of vegetables, meat, and herbs foraged from nearby woods. The scent mingles with the faint, nutty aroma of baking grain. Bread may be prepared on a flat stone heated by embers, a method perfected over generations. The warmth of the fire softens the grain and draws out subtle flavors, while the rhythmic process of kneading and shaping the dough becomes almost meditative. In these small acts, the Vikings express both care and practicality, ensuring that even in the coldest months, sustenance is within reach. Evening in the longhouse is also a time for stories. The fire casts elongated shadows on the walls, turning familiar objects into silhouettes of mystery and imagination. Elders recount tales of gods and heroes, of daring voyages across icy seas, and of battles fought under stormy skies. These stories are told slowly, each word deliberate, each pause weighted with significance. In the glow of the hearth, history is not merely recounted, it is lived. The act of storytelling intertwines with the act of nourishment, creating a rhythm that binds the community together. The mood within the longhouse contrasts sharply with the darkness and chill outside. A storm may howl across the landscape, rattling the walls and driving snow against the door, but inside, life continues with steady, quiet persistence. Bread prepared without modern ovens embodies this persistence. It is crafted with care, baked over embers, or on hot stones, resilient and sustaining. It is a reminder that even in a world that can be harsh and unforgiving, human creativity and determination can transform the simplest elements into something sustaining, even comforting. Through all of this, the hearth acts as a stage for daily life. It is here that the smallest details carry profound significance. The careful arrangement of logs to maximize heat, the gentle stirring of simmering stew, the folding of furs for comfort. Every gesture is practical, yet each contributes to a sense of rhythm, of order, and of belonging. The Vikings, through their labor and care, craft not only food but also a sense of continuity and security that radiates from the fire to every corner of the longhouse. As you imagine the scene, consider the subtle textures and sounds that surround you. The soft crackle of the fire, the low murmur of voices, the faint scrape of grain being ground, the earthy smell of warm bread. Each element is part of a larger, harmonious whole. The longhouse is alive with quiet activity, a symphony of survival, tradition and domestic artistry. This is the world of the Viking home, a world where bread is both sustenance and story, and where the hearth is the center of all that matters. In this gentle glow, life feels deliberate, measured, and timeless. Every loaf of bread, every spark in the fire, every whispered story contributes to a rhythm that has endured for centuries. And as night deepens outside, the longhouse continues to radiate warmth, comfort, and the quiet assurance that within these walls, life is being preserved, nourished, and celebrated. It is here at the heart of the home that the tale of Viking bread begins, a tale of ingenuity, perseverance, and the enduring human spirit. Long before the comforting aroma of fresh bread filled Viking homes, life in the north was shaped by a land both magnificent and merciless. Imagine wide expanses of rugged terrain, dotted with jagged rocks, dense pine forests, and icy rivers winding like silver ribbons through valleys. The summers, though fleeting, offer bursts of warmth and light. The winters, in contrast, are long, dark, and biting, with snow blanketing the earth for months on end. Here, the survival of a community depends not on abundance, but on resilience, ingenuity, and careful planning. Every seed sown, every root dug, and every grain stored becomes a vital link in the chain between life and death. The soil itself is stubborn and uneven, unlike the rich loams of southern Europe, where wheat fields stretch as far as the eye can see. Nordic soil is rocky, shallow, and often unforgiving. Early farmers faced the daunting task of coaxing life from terrain that resists cultivation. They learned to read the land, to find pockets where barley or rye could grow, where frost would be least damaging, and where rain would seep without washing away seeds. Every harvest carries uncertainty. A poor season could spell hunger for months. Yet, in the face of these challenges, communities endured, cultivating crops that could withstand the cold and provide sustenance throughout the year. Watercourses are both boon and burden. Rivers provide drinking water, fish, and transport, yet winter freezes can lock them in ice for months, and spring floods can sweep away the fields. The Vikings, observant and adaptive, used this knowledge to guide planting and harvesting cycles. They watched the rhythms of the seasons closely, marking the passing months by natural signs: the first thaw, the return of migratory birds, the budding of birch trees. This intimate connection with the environment becomes the foundation for their survival. It also frames the story of bread making, for every loaf begins with the careful cultivation of the land. Foraging supplemented farming. In the dense forests, berries, nuts, and edible roots provided flavor and nutrition, while mushrooms and herbs offered both sustenance and medicine. The Vikings were keen observers of the natural world, understanding which plants could nourish, which could heal, and which could harm. This knowledge was passed orally from parent to child, often entwined with stories that were part instruction, part legend. In this way, the harshness of the land shaped not only daily life, but also the cultural imagination, linking survival to tradition, memory, and story. Hunting and animal husbandry further defined life before bread became common. Goats, sheep, and cattle provided milk, cheese, and occasional meat. Hunting deer, elk, and birds added both protein and a sense of accomplishment, though the risk was always present. Wolves, bears, and harsh winter storms posed constant threats. These animals, while essential to survival, also shaped the rhythm of the household. Milk needed to be collected, hides prepared, and carcasses carefully preserved. The labor involved is a reminder that even in times before structured farming and bread making, life required endless attention, skill, and care. Seasons dictated the daily routine. During the brief summer, work is frenzied: planting, tending, harvesting, and storing provisions for the long months ahead. Winter brings a different kind of labor, chopping wood, repairing buildings, and preparing preserved food. It is during this frozen period that the absence of reliable ovens or modern cooking equipment becomes most apparent. Fires in the hearth provide warmth, but cooking options are limited. The people adapt, developing methods to bake and prepare food that are simple, durable, and effective, foreshadowing the ingenious bread-making techniques that will emerge. The scarcity of resources cultivates creativity. The Vikings learn to use what is available: heated stones for baking, clay or iron vessels for cooking, and simple tools for grinding and kneading grain. Every loaf of bread is the result of careful planning and ingenuity. This creativity is not born of luxury, but of necessity. It is a testament to the human spirit's ability to transform limitation into opportunity. In these conditions, the act of making bread becomes more than a culinary task. It becomes a profound assertion of survival and agency. In addition to physical challenges, the environment shapes the social structure. Communities are tightly knit, relying on cooperation for survival. Fields are tended collectively, hunting expeditions are planned with coordination, and knowledge about the land is shared generously. The harshness of the North fosters interdependence, but it also cultivates respect for those who master the skills necessary to survive. In such a world, bread-making is a communal act, intertwining labor, knowledge and care, and reinforcing the bonds that allow a society to endure. The harsh landscape also influences culture and worldview. The Vikings grow up with an acute awareness of life's fragility and nature's indifference. Legends and sagas reflect this. Tales of storms at sea, famines, and heroic survival resonate deeply because they mirror reality. Bread, humble and sustaining, becomes symbolic of human resilience. Its preparation is a ritual of survival, a tangible way to assert control over the unpredictability of the natural world. Every loaf baked in a longhouse hearth represents a small victory against the forces of cold, hunger, and time. Despite adversity, there is beauty in this environment. The long days of summer bring lush greenery, golden fields of barley, and skies streaked with dramatic clouds. Rivers sparkle, forests teem with life, and the northern lights occasionally dance across the heavens. Vikings experience these moments with an acute awareness that life is precious and fleeting. Bread, in its simplest form, becomes a way to honor that life, to transform the rawness of the land into nourishment, comfort, and continuity. As we step back and consider the harsh Nordic landscape, it is clear that the world before widespread bread-making was one of constant challenge. Life required vigilance, skill, and creativity. The environment shaped not only the food people ate, but also the rhythms of daily life, social structures, and cultural expression. Yet from this demanding setting emerges human ingenuity, embodied in every loaf baked over fire, every grain carefully sown, and every household managing the delicate balance between survival and comfort. It is against this backdrop of relentless winters, rocky fields, and fleeting summers that the story of Viking bread begins. The very difficulties of the land would inspire the techniques, tools, and traditions that allowed bread to become both sustenance and symbol. In understanding the harshness of the North, we gain a deeper appreciation for the labor, ingenuity, and quiet triumph represented in every humble Viking loaf. The stage is set, and the audience is now ready to explore how these early northern communities transformed scarcity into sustenance, turning simple grains into the cornerstone of life. Imagine the rolling fields of the North, where the soil, though rocky and stubborn, cradles tiny seeds that will become the lifeblood of Viking communities. These seeds are barley, rye, and oats, grains hardy enough to endure the cold, short summers and long, unforgiving winters. Unlike the golden wheat of southern Europe, these grains are resilient, coarse, and modest, yet they carry within them the promise of survival. The Vikings relied on them for sustenance, crafting every meal with care and attention to what the land could reliably provide. Each seed sown is a gamble with nature, a quiet act of faith that nourishment will emerge from the earth's reluctant embrace. Barley is perhaps the most celebrated of these northern grains. Its sturdy stalks sway in the summer breeze, whispering across fields like a living tapestry. Farmers cultivate barley with meticulous care, selecting seeds from the best harvests of the previous year, ensuring that future crops will thrive. Its grains are rich in nutrients, able to sustain body and spirit through cold winters when other food is scarce. Barley is versatile. It can be boiled, ground into coarse flour, or fermented into ale, yet in the longhouse, it is most valued for the bread it produces, humble yet hearty, nourishing, and essential. Rye, with its dark, slender grains, thrives where barley struggles. It can withstand poor soil and late frosts, making it indispensable for northern households. Rye bread is dense, chewy and sustaining, often baked over hot stones or in covered pots, its aroma mingling with the smoke of the hearth. The Vikings knew that rye could carry them through famine and harsh seasons, and its cultivation is treated with reverence and care. Each stalk harvested is a testament to both endurance and the knowledge passed down through generations, an intimate understanding of soil, seed, and season. Oats, though perhaps less celebrated, serve a vital role. They grow quickly, provide fodder for animals, and can be incorporated into breads and porridge alike. The Vikings understood the balance between growing oats for themselves and feeding their livestock, a delicate management of resources that ensured the longhouse remained full and the community thrived. Oats add texture and variety to bread, giving it a subtle sweetness and a slightly nutty flavor that is comforting in its simplicity. Each grain is a reminder that survival depends not only on strength and courage, but also on careful stewardship of the land and its bounty. Harvesting these grains is no simple task. The Vikings work together in a rhythm that echoes through the longhouse and fields alike. Scythes sweep through the stalks, hands gather bundles, and laughter and song accompany the labor. The air is thick with dust, and the scent of ripe grain, earthy and warm under the sun. Children and elders alike participate, each learning the techniques that will allow the next generation to continue this essential work. Harvest is a time of both toil and celebration, a moment when human effort meets the generosity of the earth, however modest or fleeting it may be. Once harvested, grains must be carefully dried, stored and protected from pests and moisture. Granaries, often raised on stilts or placed on dry, secure ground, keep the precious seeds safe through snowstorms and rain. This attention to storage reflects a profound understanding of both nature and necessity. The success of the next season depends on what is preserved today. Every grain stored becomes a promise of tomorrow, a quiet assurance that the family, the longhouse, and the community can endure through the most challenging months. Grinding the grains is another act of transformation, turning raw seeds into flour, the base of the bread that sustains life. Quernstones, simple yet effective tools, provide a rhythmic and meditative labor. Women often undertake this task, turning heavy stones with practiced precision, while the children watch and learn. The sound of grain being crushed echoes softly through the longhouse, a constant grounding presence that reminds all of the essential work that sustains survival. The tactile feel of coarse flour slipping through fingers is both practical and deeply intimate, linking human effort directly to nourishment. Different combinations of these grains allow for variation in bread, reflecting both availability and preference. Barley may be mixed with rye to produce a denser loaf, while oats can add texture and subtle sweetness. The Vikings experiment intuitively, learning through taste and trial, adjusting proportions to suit hunger, weather, and circumstance. This culinary knowledge, though not recorded in written texts for centuries, forms the backbone of Viking domestic expertise. Every loaf baked carries with it a history of adaptation, resilience, and creativity. Grains also carry symbolic weight. They are a connection to the land, to ancestors, and to the cycles of life and death that define existence in the North. Planting, harvesting, and baking are rituals as much as practical tasks. They link the present to the past, reminding the community that survival is not merely individual, but collective, that each act of tending the soil and preparing bread contributes to the continuity of life. In the hands of the Vikings, humble grains become instruments of both sustenance and storytelling, grounding the narrative of their culture in the simple, essential work of daily life. As winter approaches, the importance of grains becomes even more pronounced. Fields lie fallow under snow, and the stored harvest must suffice until the next growing season. Bread made from these hardy grains becomes both sustenance and comfort, a reminder of summer's fleeting abundance and human ingenuity. Even in scarcity, the act of preparing bread imbues the longhouse with warmth, smell, and rhythm, anchoring life amidst the long darkness. The careful stewardship of grains ensures that families can endure, warriors can travel, and traditions can continue unbroken. In this way, the grains of the north, barley, rye, and oats, tell the story of Viking resilience. They are more than mere food, they are a lifeline, a testament to observation, patience, and understanding. Each loaf, each crumb, carries the legacy of generations who adapted to a harsh, unyielding landscape. Through these grains, we can feel the pulse of Viking life, measured, deliberate, and deeply connected to the cycles of the natural world. They remind us that survival is never accidental, but earned through care, knowledge, and quiet perseverance. It is through these grains that the Vikings transform hardship into sustenance, scarcity into nourishment, and the raw, austere landscape into a home capable of sustaining human life. In understanding barley, rye, and oats, we begin to see how the Vikings turned the simplest elements of their environment into something enduring, practical, and profoundly human. From these modest seeds springs a story of ingenuity, labor, and continuity, a story that will carry us forward into the very methods by which they made bread without ovens, and the remarkable techniques that would define their culinary legacy. The rhythm of a Viking longhouse is defined as much by sound as by sight. One of the most persistent grounding sounds is the soft, steady grind of quern stones. Imagine a woman kneeling on the earthen floor, her hands steady and practiced, turning a heavy upper stone against a stationary lower stone. With each rotation, grains of barley, rye, or oats are crushed into coarse flour, tiny fragments of life transformed into nourishment. The soft hiss of crushed grain and the gentle scraping of stone against stone form a subtle symphony, a background hum of survival, persistence, and quiet domestic artistry. This labor, though repetitive, is deeply rhythmic. The steady motion of the upper stone requires focus, patience, and endurance. Women often spend hours at this task, their bodies swaying slightly with the weight and friction of the tool. Children sit nearby, watching closely, learning the motion with wide, attentive eyes. The sound becomes familiar, almost meditative, marking the passing hours of the day. In the flickering light of the hearth, the motion of grinding transforms from mere labor into a ritual, an intimate connection between human effort and the sustenance it produces. The quern stone itself is a marvel of simplicity and efficiency, composed of rough, durable rock, carefully shaped to create a flat lower surface and a rotating upper surface. It harnesses friction to crush hard grains. Though small, it embodies centuries of adaptation, the accumulated knowledge of countless hands and generations. Each turn produces not only flour, but also continuity, the skills, techniques, and care passed down quietly within families. It is a small, intimate artifact, yet one central to the survival of the Viking community. Grinding is more than a mechanical process. It is a sensory experience. The rough texture of grain beneath the fingertips, the fine dust that drifts into the air, the smell of freshly ground barley, all contribute to the tactile and olfactory landscape of the longhouse. The motion is slow, deliberate, and grounding, a sharp contrast to the often harsh and unpredictable environment outside. Each rotation of the stone carries with it a sense of purpose, transforming raw, unyielding seeds into something capable of sustaining life through long winters and arduous journeys. The act of grinding also shapes social dynamics. While women primarily perform this task, it is understood and respected by the entire household. The process requires physical strength, dexterity, and attention to detail, qualities that are quietly admired and valued. Young girls observe, mimic, and gradually master the technique, ensuring that knowledge is never lost. The rhythm of grinding becomes a subtle connector, linking generations through shared labor and understanding. In this way, domestic work is both practical and profoundly cultural, embedding skills, values and traditions into everyday life. Quen stones vary in size and efficiency. Smaller handheld stones are portable and suitable for individual households, while larger, more permanent setups can produce greater quantities of flour. Each stone bears marks of use, scars etched into its surface by years of grinding. These imperfections are evidence of history, of repeated effort, and of human ingenuity adapting to circumstance. The Vikings learned to listen to the sound each stone produces, adjusting pressure and motion to optimize the output. There is a subtle expertise, an artfulness, in the way grains are ground, reflecting both skill and intimate knowledge of materials. The sound of grinding also becomes a kind of rhythm for life itself. It sets the pace for other tasks. While one woman grinds, another stirs a stew over the fire, children collect firewood, and elders weave or mend garments. The longhouse hums with activity, each sound layering over another to create a cohesive living rhythm. Grinding is at once background and foreground, a constant reminder that survival requires effort, attention, and quiet coordination. The simple act of turning the stone reflects a larger pattern of order, amidst the potential chaos of northern life. Beyond domestic labor, grinding grain carries symbolic weight. Each scoop of flour represents patience, foresight, and preparation. The act acknowledges the fragility of life in a land where crops can fail, winters can be merciless, and resources are finite. In every handful of flour, there is an unspoken promise that the household will endure, that the family will be nourished, and that the traditions of the community will continue. It is an intimate intersection of human effort and natural cycles, one small act within a vast tapestry of survival. As grains are ground, the flour itself takes shape, coarse, slightly gritty, yet full of potential. It can be mixed, kneaded, and baked into bread that sustains body and spirit. The preparation transforms simple ingredients into a staple that will carry the household through cold months and long voyages. Every loaf begins here at the hearth, with hands pressing, turning, and feeling the texture of life itself. The tactile nature of grinding, combined with the sound and rhythm of the process, instills a sense of calm and purpose, anchoring the day in deliberate action. Even in moments of weariness, the act of grinding is meditative. The repetition of motion, the sensory immersion, and the quiet focus allow the mind to settle. The hum of activity within the longhouse, and the steady scratch of stone against stone create a lullaby-like atmosphere. It is here that history feels alive, generations of women performing the same motions, each rotation preserving knowledge, culture, and sustenance. The act itself becomes a bridge between past and present, linking the listener to centuries of human adaptation and domestic artistry. Grinding grain is also a story of resourcefulness. With no modern tools or machinery, the Vikings mastered the simple yet effective Quen stone, turning a modest rock into an instrument of survival. Every mark on the stone, every slight adjustment in technique, is evidence of human ingenuity. The process illustrates a profound principle, that necessity shapes invention, and that even the simplest tools can transform lives when guided by knowledge, skill, and persistence. In this way, grinding is not merely labor, it is an assertion of control over the harsh northern environment. As the day turns to evening, and the fire casts long shadows across the longhouse floor, the work of grinding reaches a natural pause. The flour, carefully collected, is ready for baking. The rhythmic sound ceases, leaving a soft quiet, punctuated by the crackle of embers and the murmur of household life. In this pause, the significance of the labor is fully felt, the sustenance produced, the skills passed down, and the cultural continuity secured. The Quen stone, though still, retains the echoes of countless rotations, a quiet testament to endurance and care. Through the sound, motion, and labor of Quen stones, the Viking longhouse comes alive. It is a space where survival, artistry, and domestic expertise converge. Grinding grain is not merely a prelude to baking, it is an essential rhythm of life, a sensory and emotional anchor, and a ritual that connects generations. Every rotation carries purpose, every handful of flour carries promise, and every sound carries history. In this quiet, deliberate act, the Vikings transform the raw elements of their harsh world into sustenance, comfort, and continuity, preparing the way for the remarkable breads that will emerge from their ingenuity. In the heart of the Viking longhouse, the hearth is more than a source of warmth. It is the birthplace of ingenuity. Without modern ovens, the Vikings faced a formidable challenge: how to transform coarse, hardy grains into bread that could sustain them through harsh winters, long voyages, and endless labor. Yet, from necessity, arose remarkable creativity. They experimented with heat, stone, and embers, developing techniques that were simple, efficient, and deeply adapted to their environment. Every loaf produced in this way is a quiet testament to human inventiveness, a solution born from observation, patience, and practical knowledge. One of the most common methods involves baking flatbreads directly on heated stones. Imagine selecting a smooth, flat rock from a riverbank or quarry, cleaning it carefully, and then placing it near the fire until it radiates gentle, even warmth. The dough, prepared from ground barley, rye, or oats, is pressed thin and placed atop the glowing stone. Heat transfers slowly through the rock, baking the bread evenly without scorching it. The aroma rises softly, mingling with the scent of smoke and wood, filling the longhouse with an earthy, comforting fragrance. Each flatbread is modest yet nourishing, capable of lasting for days if stored properly. Another technique involves the use of iron cauldrons or clay pots. These vessels, suspended over or near the hearth, can contain dough that is either boiled or covered with embers to bake. The method is practical. It shields the bread from direct flames, while allowing heat to penetrate and cook the interior. The process requires careful attention. The Viking cook must judge the temperature of the fire, adjust embers, and rotate or cover the pot to ensure even baking. Each loaf becomes an exercise in observation, intuition, and rhythm, a subtle dance between human skill and elemental forces. Some Viking households take an entirely different approach, burying dough beneath hot ashes, or embers. The bread is wrapped in leaves, animal skins, or coarse cloth to protect it from direct contact with flames. The embers provide steady, radiant heat, slowly transforming raw flour and water into a solid, nourishing loaf. This method demands patience, for the heat is gentle, and timing is crucial. Too brief an exposure leaves the dough uncooked, too long, and the loaf hardens or burns. It is a delicate balance, mastered through repetition and keen attention to sensory cues, the smell of baking, the warmth of the embers, and the texture of the exterior. These methods, while modest, reveal a profound understanding of heat, materials, and timing. The Vikings possess no modern thermometer or preheated oven, yet they achieve consistent results through careful observation and experience. Each household develops its own variations, adjusting techniques to match local resources, the type of grain available, and the number of mouths to feed. The ingenuity is both communal and individual, a blend of inherited knowledge and personal experimentation. In every loaf baked without an oven, the ingenuity of the Vikings is tangible, a quiet triumph over environmental constraints. Bread making in this way is both practical and sensory. The process engages sight, touch, and smell, transforming cooking into a deeply immersive experience. The hands shape and pat the dough, feeling its consistency, softness, and elasticity. The eyes gauge the heat of stones or embers, watching for subtle changes in color or texture. The nose monitors the faint aroma of baking, alert to signals that the bread is ready. Even the ears contribute, as the soft crackle of embers and the quiet hiss of dough cooking provide clues about progress. This multi-sensory engagement creates a rhythm that is calming, methodical, and almost meditative. Viking ingenuity extends beyond basic baking techniques. They develop tools and practices to maximize efficiency and consistency. Stones are selected for their density and smoothness. Cauldrons are carefully positioned, and embers are arranged to maintain steady heat. Dough is mixed with attention to hydration, texture, and grain composition, ensuring that the bread is both edible and long-lasting. Each step, while simple in appearance, is refined through experience and necessity. The cumulative knowledge of generations ensures that the community can feed itself reliably, even in a landscape that offers little leniency. The ingenuity of Viking bread making also reflects an intimate relationship with time. Unlike modern ovens, where temperatures can be controlled precisely, the hearth is unpredictable. Fires fluctuate, embers cool, and the surrounding air may carry drafts or moisture. In response, Vikings develop patience, learning to read the signs of readiness in the dough and the environment. They become attuned to the subtle interplay of elements, adjusting and compensating as needed. Bread making thus becomes not only a culinary skill, but a form of environmental literacy, a way to navigate and master the natural world through careful attention and practice. Portability is another consideration. Bread is often baked to endure storage and transport, particularly for raiding parties or trading voyages. Loaves are dense, flat, and resilient, able to withstand days or weeks without spoiling. This durability is a testament to the Viking understanding of texture, moisture content, and grain composition. Every loaf is carefully crafted to serve immediate nutritional needs and to remain viable across time and distance. The ingenuity lies not only in baking but in foresight, planning, and anticipation of challenges beyond the longhouse. The social dimension of this creativity is equally significant. Bread making is often a communal activity, involving multiple family members or neighbors. Knowledge is shared through observation, instruction, and repetition. Elders demonstrate techniques, while younger participants practice, sometimes under gentle guidance. This intergenerational exchange reinforces both survival skills and cultural cohesion. Every loaf carries the imprint of shared effort and collective memory, linking individuals to their community, their ancestors, and the land itself. Even in simplicity, Viking bread making possesses aesthetic and symbolic value. Loaves, flat or rounded, bear the marks of hands, stones, or vessels used in their creation. They are imperfect, yet each imperfection tells a story of labor, adaptation, and survival. The aroma, texture, and appearance of the bread convey care, skill, and attention, transforming a simple staple into a form of quiet artistry. In every household, the act of baking becomes a testament to resilience, creativity, and the human capacity to turn limitation into nourishment. Ultimately, bread without ovens exemplifies the ingenuity, patience, and adaptability of Viking life. Each method, whether baking on stones in cauldrons or beneath embers, is a solution tailored to environment, resources, and necessity. It demonstrates an intimate understanding of materials, heat, and timing, coupled with a keen awareness of social, cultural, and practical needs. The Vikings transformed the simplest grains into sustenance through observation, experimentation, and skill, leaving a legacy of resourcefulness that resonates across centuries. Through these inventive techniques, the story of Viking bread comes alive. It is not merely a tale of food preparation, it is a narrative of human adaptation, creativity, and survival. The humble hearth, the glowing embers, and the steadfast hands of those who labor over them all converge to produce something sustaining, comforting, and enduring. Bread without ovens becomes both a practical achievement and a metaphor for the quiet ingenuity that allowed the Vikings to thrive in a demanding and unforgiving world. In the Viking longhouse, bread is more than a meal. It is a daily ritual, a source of sustenance, and a quiet marker of survival. The flatbreads of the north, modest in appearance yet rich in purpose, are carefully crafted to meet the demands of life in a harsh and unforgiving environment. Imagine the simple shapes of these loaves, thin, sturdy, and slightly uneven, their surfaces bearing the gentle impressions of hands or the subtle textures of heated stones. They are practical in design, resilient enough to endure long storage and travel, yet soft enough to nourish those who rely upon them daily. These flatbreads form the backbone of the Viking diet. Meals are often simple. A slice of bread accompanies a modest chew, a piece of dried fish, or a small portion of preserved meat. Yet in this simplicity lies ingenuity. The flatbread is versatile, serving as both utensil and sustenance, capable of scooping up hearty mixtures or providing a quick snack for laborers, travelers, or warriors. Every bite carries energy, warmth, and a quiet reassurance that, even in the coldest months, nourishment is within reach. Preparation of flatbread is deliberate and mindful. The dough, a mixture of coarsely ground barley, rye, or oats, is kneaded carefully, pressed to an even thickness, and shaped by hand. The process engages all senses. the rough texture of flour slipping between fingers, the gentle resistance of the dough, the faint earthy aroma rising from the hearth. Each step is slow and intentional, reinforcing a rhythm that is both calming and essential. The act of shaping the bread becomes a meditation, a quiet conversation between human hands and elemental forces. Baking is equally intentional. Flatbreads are often cooked on preheated stones, which radiate gentle, even heat, or beneath hot embers, where they absorb warmth gradually. The Viking baker must judge the readiness of both dough and heat through observation and experience, monitoring subtle changes in color, texture, and scent. This attention to detail ensures that each loaf is cooked evenly, avoiding raw or burnt sections. The result is bread that is both functional and comforting, a product of patience, skill, and careful observation. Flatbreads are also remarkably durable. Their thin, dense composition allows them to dry without spoiling, making them ideal for storage and travel. Families often prepare large batches during harvest or favorable weather, stacking them carefully and storing them in dry, cool areas. When needed, the bread can be softened over a warm hearth, or eaten as is, providing sustenance for days or even weeks. This durability reflects a practical understanding of preservation, an essential skill in a land where winter is long and harsh and fresh food is scarce. The social aspect of flatbread production is profound. Baking often involves multiple members of the household, each contributing to the preparation and cooking process. Children observe and participate, learning the rhythm of kneading and shaping dough. Elders supervise, offering guidance and ensuring consistency. Through these communal activities, knowledge and skill are passed down seamlessly from one generation to the next. In this way, flatbread becomes a conduit for cultural continuity, a tangible link between family, labor, and survival. The sensory experience of flatbreads extends beyond the baking process. The soft crunch as one bites into the thin crust, the subtle nuttiness of barley or oats, and the warmth lingering from the hearth create a multi-sensory connection to both sustenance and memory. Each loaf carries not just calories but comfort and reassurance, a small pleasure that punctuates the daily life of Vikings in an otherwise demanding world. In these moments, bread transcends mere function, offering a quiet emotional resonance. Flatbreads also embody the adaptability of the Vikings. Ingredients are adjusted according to season and availability. Barley may be dominant when harvested abundantly, rye added to extend the dough, and oats incorporated for variety or texture. Water is carefully measured to achieve the right consistency, while optional herbs or seeds may enhance flavor or nutrition. Each loaf reflects the careful management of resources, an understanding of what the land can provide, and the creativity necessary to stretch limited ingredients into nourishing meals. The longhouse itself influences the baking process. Hearths are central and accessible, providing a constant source of warmth and heat. Stones, embers, and vessels are arranged thoughtfully, maximizing efficiency while preserving safety. The physical space and tools shape the bread-making ritual, making it a coordinated activity that aligns with the household's daily rhythm. Flatbreads in this context are not only food, but also a reflection of domestic ingenuity, an intersection of environment, labor, and human adaptation. Moreover, flatbreads carry symbolic meaning. Each loaf represents preparation, foresight, and resilience. In a region where winter can stretch for months and food may be scarce, having a stack of durable bread is a small triumph over uncertainty. The act of baking and storing flatbreads embodies hope and stability, anchoring the household in routine and survival. These loaves are not merely meals, they are quiet testaments to human endurance and ingenuity, small but profound achievements within the larger story of Viking life. For travelers, warriors, and traders, flatbreads are indispensable. Their portability allows them to be carried on journeys across rivers, forests, and seas. They serve as compact, reliable sustenance, requiring no preparation, and remaining edible for extended periods. The energy they provide is crucial, fueling long days of labor, exploration, or combat. In this way, flatbreads extend their influence beyond the home, sustaining Viking endeavors across vast and often unforgiving landscapes. Even in the quiet moments within the longhouse, the presence of flatbreads is comforting. Stacks of golden brown loaves, resting on wooden boards or tucked into baskets, signal care, preparation, and the continuity of life. They are small, tangible markers of security, subtly reassuring all who see them that the household is nourished and the family is provided for. In these simple loaves, we see the convergence of labor, tradition, and practicality, a testament to how the Vikings harmonized daily survival with cultural ritual. Ultimately, flatbreads are a reflection of Viking life itself, practical, resilient, and resourceful. They embody the ingenuity required to thrive in a harsh northern environment, the rhythms of communal labor, and the sensory and emotional dimensions of domestic life. Each loaf carries within it the story of soil, seed, fire, and human hands, connecting generations past to the present moment. Through flatbreads, we glimpse the careful balance of necessity, creativity, and endurance that defined the daily existence of Viking communities. In every thin, sturdy loaf lies a quiet celebration of ingenuity. From the grinding of hardy grains to the careful baking over stone and ember, the Vikings transformed simple resources into sustenance that supports life, community, and culture. Flatbreads are both nourishment and narrative, humble yet profound, sustaining body and spirit alike. They are a reminder that, even in the harshest conditions, human beings find ways to adapt, to create and to thrive, turning scarcity into resilience and daily labor into quiet mastery. In the warm glow of the Viking longhouse, the hearth is not only the heart of domestic life, but also a place of quiet education. Here, children learn the essential skills that will sustain them and their families, with bread making serving as both practical instruction and a gentle rite of passage. Imagine a young boy or girl sitting cross-legged on the earthen floor, hands hovering over coarse flour, eyes wide with curiosity, while an elder guides each motion with patient attention. The act of kneading, shaping, and baking bread becomes an immersive lesson in observation, rhythm, and patience. From the very beginning, children are taught to understand the grain itself. They feel its texture, noting the difference between barley, rye, and oats. They learn to measure, mix, and gradually transform small handfuls of grain into workable dough. Each stage offers insight into cause and effect. Too little water, and the dough resists shaping; too much, and it becomes sticky and unmanageable. Through these tactile lessons, children develop both dexterity and judgment, learning that the subtleties of preparation influence the outcome in tangible ways. In these moments, simple grains become teachers, imparting lessons in care, attentiveness, and patience. Observation is equally central to learning. Children watch elders closely, noting how heat from stones or embers interacts with the dough, how subtle changes in color and texture signal readiness, and how timing must be adjusted to the unpredictability of the hearth. The process cultivates a deep awareness of both material and environment. Children are encouraged to listen to the soft sizzle of baking, to smell the faint nutty aroma, and to touch cautiously, feeling warmth radiating from stones or vessels. Each sensory cue reinforces learning, creating a holistic understanding that extends far beyond rote instruction. Kneading the dough offers lessons in rhythm and concentration. The repetitive motion is calming and meditative, a practice that subtly trains focus and endurance. Children learn to match their motions to the natural resistance of the dough, adjusting pressure and speed intuitively. The process also teaches responsibility. A loaf requires care from start to finish, and even small mistakes can affect the quality and usability of the bread. Through repetition, young learners internalize the connection between effort and outcome, a principle that resonates far beyond the longhouse, shaping their approach to life, labor, and problem-solving. Art itself serves as a living classroom. Children observe not only bread making, but also how tasks are coordinated in the household. While one person kneads, another tends the fire, and a third arranges stones or embers for baking. They witness how labor is shared, how timing is synchronized, and how communication ensures that the household functions smoothly. This embedded social learning reinforces collaboration and respect, demonstrating that survival in the North is both individual skill and collective effort. In this way, bread making becomes a lens through which children understand the broader dynamics of life. Storytelling often accompanies instruction. As elders guide young hands, they recount tales of ancestors, voyages, and survival, linking practical skills to cultural memory. A simple loaf of bread becomes a narrative device, a connection to generations past, and a symbol of continuity. Children absorb not only techniques but also the values, traditions, and history embedded within them. Through these stories, they learn that survival is intertwined with culture, that labor carries meaning, and that every act, no matter how mundane, participates in a larger, ongoing narrative. Children also experiment under supervision. They are encouraged to try different thicknesses, shapes, and methods, observing the results and learning from trial and error. This hands-on approach nurtures curiosity and creativity, while reinforcing problem-solving and adaptability. When a flatbread sticks to a stone or burns slightly at the edge, it becomes a lesson in adjustment and resilience. Each small success, each carefully baked loaf, builds confidence and skill, fostering a sense of accomplishment and agency that will guide them throughout life. Safety and attentiveness are crucial lessons. The hearth is both warm and dangerous, and children learn to respect the heat, manage tools carefully, and maintain awareness of their surroundings. This careful attention to risk develops mindfulness and responsibility, reinforcing that every action has consequences. By integrating practical safety with technical skill, the act of learning bread making becomes comprehensive, encompassing both physical and cognitive growth. The hearth therefore functions as a multidimensional classroom, teaching life skills as much as culinary ones. Timing and observation are central pillars of instruction. Children learn that bread does not conform to a rigid schedule. It follows the rhythm of the fire, the density of the dough, and the ambient environment. Adjustments are made intuitively, and learners quickly understand that attentiveness and adaptability are essential. This process encourages patience, careful listening, and acute awareness, qualities that shape not only culinary expertise, but also character and resilience. In a world where nature is unpredictable, these lessons are indispensable, preparing the next generation for life beyond the longhouse. The act of serving and sharing bread completes the educational cycle. Children observe how freshly baked flatbreads are offered, eaten and stored, learning the importance of portioning, preservation, and communal responsibility. Sharing bread teaches generosity, cooperation, and respect for resources, reinforcing the social cohesion necessary for survival in a harsh environment. Each meal becomes both practical sustenance and a reinforcement of cultural values, embedding lessons in daily life without need for formal instruction. By the time a child masters the basics of bread making, they have acquired more than culinary skill. They have learned to read the land and the hearth, to manipulate materials with patience and care, and to participate meaningfully in the rhythms of household and community life. The process instills confidence, resilience, and a deep understanding of cause and effect, linking manual labor to cognitive and social development. Bread making is thus a holistic education, shaping mind, body, and character in equal measure. Even the quiet moments, kneading, shaping, or watching dough rise near warm stones, carry lessons in mindfulness and reflection. Children develop an appreciation for process, for observation, and for the passage of time. They witness the transformation of humble grains into sustaining food, experiencing firsthand the rewards of labor and attention. This immersive learning fosters not only practical skills but also a sense of wonder and connection, anchoring them in both family and landscape, past and present. Ultimately, teaching children to make bread in the Viking longhouse is a profound act of cultural preservation. It ensures the continuity of skills, traditions, and values across generations. It instills patience, ingenuity, and awareness, equipping the young with tools for both survival and community life. The hearth, glowing with warmth and activity, becomes a stage upon which generations are connected, knowledge is transferred, and the rhythm of Viking life continues uninterrupted. In every movement, scent, and sound, children absorb lessons that will sustain them long after the embers cool. Through this intimate multisensory education, bread making transcends the mundane and becomes a cornerstone of Viking childhood. It is practical, artistic, social, and symbolic, all at once. The next generation learns not only to sustain themselves, but also to honor their heritage, to participate in the ongoing narrative of survival, and to cultivate a mindful, patient approach to life. In the quiet guidance of elders, the steady rhythm of the hearth, and the tactile engagement of hands and grains, children acquire the wisdom of centuries, preparing them to carry forward the legacy of bread, survival, and ingenuity. In the harsh northern climate, where winters stretch long and daylight wanes, the value of preserved food cannot be overstated. For the Vikings, bread is not merely a daily staple, it is a vital reserve, a buffer against scarcity, and a testament to foresight and ingenuity. Without modern refrigeration, preservation requires careful technique, keen observation, and an understanding of both the bread and its environment. Imagine a longhouse in the depths of winter. Snow drifts against the walls, the hearth casts warm, flickering light, and stacks of carefully prepared flatbreads lie within reach, ready to sustain the household through months of cold and scarcity. The first step in preservation is careful baking. Bread intended for long-term storage is often baked denser and slightly drier than daily consumption loaves. This prevents rapid spoilage, allowing the bread to remain edible for extended periods. Stones, embers, or covered vessels are used, with precise control over heat, to achieve an even, thorough bake. The Vikings judge readiness by texture, color, and subtle sound. A well-baked loaf may yield a faint hollow sound when tapped, signaling that moisture has been reduced without hardening the interior excessively. This initial attention to detail lays the foundation for longevity. Once baked, the flatbreads are cooled slowly. Rapid changes in temperature can encourage mold or condensation, which would compromise preservation. Loaves are carefully arranged on wooden boards or racks, ensuring airflow around each piece. The Viking household understands the subtleties of environmental control. The longhouse is ventilated enough to reduce excess humidity, but retains warmth to prevent freezing or cracking. This balance of airflow and temperature demonstrates an intimate knowledge of natural conditions, transforming basic domestic space into a carefully managed storage environment. Storage techniques vary according to resources and household needs. Some families stack flatbreads in woven baskets lined with cloth to prevent contamination and protect from pests. Others hang loaves from hooks or beams, utilizing vertical space while keeping bread away from damp floors. In some cases, bread is stored in cool, dry cellars or earthen pits, shielded from moisture and temperature fluctuations. Each method reflects a nuanced understanding of the household environment, leveraging available materials to maximize shelf life and ensure reliable access to sustenance. Protection from pests is equally critical. Rodents and insects, drawn to the scent and nutritional value of bread, must be deterred. The Vikings employ practical measures, elevated storage, cloth wrappings, and sometimes natural repellents. This vigilance extends beyond mere survival. It reflects a broader principle of care and attention to detail. Every loaf represents not only the effort of baking, but also the foresight required to safeguard resources, emphasizing that preservation is an ongoing responsibility, not a single act. The texture and composition of the bread itself contribute to preservation. Coarser grains, like barley and rye, used in dense flatbreads, resist spoilage better than softer, more hydrated doughs. Oats may be included for flavor and texture, but their proportion is adjusted to maintain durability. The precise balance of moisture, density, and grain mix is a refined knowledge passed down through generations. In this way, the very ingredients chosen by the Vikings are aligned with the environmental challenges they face, demonstrating practical ingenuity and thoughtful adaptation. Rehydration techniques are also important for long-stored bread. Loaves that have dried out over months can be softened over a warm hearth, briefly toasted, or even lightly steamed with moisture from soups or stews. This ensures that preserved bread remains palatable and functional, a flexible solution for nourishment that accommodates changing circumstances. It is an elegant example of how practical experience informs both preservation and consumption, allowing bread to serve its role without waste or diminished quality. The social aspect of bread preservation is profound. Stacks of preserved bread are communal resources, supporting the household collectively and ensuring that, even during lean periods, every member is sustained. Elders guide younger members in proper storage, monitoring, and usage, reinforcing both skill and responsibility. Children learn the importance of rationing, careful handling, and maintaining environmental conditions, ensuring that knowledge of preservation continues uninterrupted. In this sense, bread preservation is both practical and educational, embedding lessons in foresight, patience, and communal care. Preserving bread also carries symbolic weight. Each stored loaf represents preparation, resilience, and continuity. In the long months of winter, when the landscape outside is stark and unyielding, the sight of neatly stacked flatbreads offers reassurance and comfort. It signifies that the household is protected, that the labor of past days continues to bear fruit, and that survival is sustained by knowledge, diligence, and care. Bread becomes more than sustenance. It is a tangible emblem of security and human ingenuity. The act of rotation is another critical component. Families regularly inspect stored bread, using older loaves first to prevent spoilage, and replenishing stocks as new batches are baked. This practice instills discipline, organization, and attention to cycles of use, reinforcing a careful, methodical approach to household management. In this rhythm, preservation becomes an ongoing practice, rather than a one-time task, embedding a sense of temporal awareness and planning in daily life. Even the simplest preserved bread reflects mastery of materials and environment. Every decision, from grain selection to baking temperature, cooling method to storage location, is influenced by centuries of accumulated experience. The Vikings navigate natural constraints with skillful adaptation, transforming raw, perishable ingredients into reliable, enduring sustenance. Preservation is therefore not passive. It is a deliberate, thoughtful process that integrates observation, experimentation, and inherited wisdom into practical outcomes. Preserved bread also enables broader aspects of Viking life. Reliable sustenance supports long journeys, trade, and raiding, as travelers carry durable flatbreads across rivers, forests, and seas. It allows households to endure lean periods without panic, creating stability that sustains both physical health and social cohesion. In this way, preservation extends the influence of domestic ingenuity beyond the longhouse, reinforcing the Vikings' adaptability, mobility, and resilience. Ultimately, the careful techniques used to preserve bread reflect a profound understanding of cycles, materials, and human needs. Dense, dry, and well-stored flatbreads are more than food. They are evidence of observation, foresight, and sustained labor. They embody the Viking principle that survival requires planning, skill, and care, transforming humble ingredients into resources capable of bridging months of scarcity. In this practice, daily labor becomes a continuous dialogue with the environment, turning heat, stone, grain, and air into life-sustaining knowledge. Through preservation, the story of Viking bread extends beyond the hearth. Each loaf, carefully stored and tended, connects past efforts to future needs, ensuring that generations can endure even in the harshest winters. The techniques employed are both practical and deeply human, reflecting the resilience, ingenuity, and foresight that define Viking life. In every stack of flatbreads lies a quiet triumph, the transformation of fleeting harvests into enduring sustenance, and the assurance that even in the longest, coldest months, life, warmth, and nourishment will continue. Even in the simplest kitchens of the Viking longhouse, the pursuit of flavor and variety transforms basic flatbreads into a subtle art. While nourishment and durability are paramount, Vikings did not accept monotony. They enhanced their bread with herbs, seeds, and other additives, drawing from the natural resources surrounding them. Imagine a child reaching for a small bundle of wild herbs, or an elder carefully sprinkling seeds into dough before kneading. These small gestures introduce layers of aroma, texture, and taste, enriching the daily staple without compromising its practicality or preservation. Herbs are perhaps the most delicate and expressive additions. Gathered from nearby meadows, riverbanks, or household gardens, they bring both flavor and subtle medicinal properties. Dill, caraway, and fennel seeds are particularly prized, adding a fragrant note that elevates simple grains into a more complex sensory experience. The herbs are mixed directly into the dough or sprinkled on top before baking, releasing their aroma as heat draws out their essential oils. The scent is soft but distinct, permeating the longhouse and inviting anticipation even before the bread is broken. Seeds offer texture and nutrition in equal measure. Sunflower seeds, flax, and poppy seeds are incorporated to add crunch, visual interest, and additional sustenance. Each seed type brings unique properties. Flax adds subtle nuttiness and binding qualities, while poppy seeds contribute a light, aromatic texture. Sprinkled atop flatbreads or kneaded into the dough, seeds create a dynamic contrast with the coarse grains, transforming a simple loaf into a multi-dimensional experience. They reflect a careful consideration of both taste and function, illustrating how Vikings leveraged natural resources to enhance daily life. Additives go beyond herbs and seeds, extending into local ingredients that diversify flavor and provide subtle energy boosts. Wild berries, dried fruits, or even small amounts of honey may be incorporated, particularly during harvest or festive occasions. These additions are not extravagant. They are carefully measured to maintain the bread's durability, while offering occasional bursts of sweetness and complexity. Each bite carries a whisper of landscape and season, connecting the eater to the cycles of nature and the rhythms of daily life in a way that transcends mere sustenance. The process of enhancing bread requires attention and timing. Herbs must be fresh or properly dried, seeds lightly toasted or clean, and sweeteners incorporated thoughtfully to avoid disrupting texture. Vikings develop an intuitive understanding of balance. Too many seeds might compromise the loaf structure, while overly moist ingredients could shorten shelf life. Each decision reflects experience, experimentation, and careful observation. Through this, bread becomes a subtle canvas for creativity, demonstrating that even the most practical foods can carry aesthetic and sensory delight. Flavor also serves as a mnemonic and cultural marker. Certain herbs or seed combinations become associated with family or household, creating unique signatures that distinguish one kitchen from another. Recipes are passed down orally, with small variations added by each generation. In this way, bread carries not just nourishment but history and identity. When a particular aroma or texture emerges from the hearth, it evokes memories, signals communal belonging, and reinforces cultural continuity, connecting the present moment to both past practices and ancestral wisdom. The sensory experience of enhanced bread is immersive. The touch of coarse dough interspersed with seeds or herbs engages the fingers, while the aroma stimulates anticipation. As flatbreads bake, the release of herbal oils and the gentle crackle of seeds in the heat enriches the environment, turning the longhouse into a space of quiet ceremony. Even before tasting, the bread engages the senses, preparing the body and mind for nourishment. When broken, each bite carries layers of flavor and texture, rewarding patience, observation, and care. Vikings also explore seasonality in their flavoring. Spring and summer bring fresh herbs, wild greens and edible flowers, while autumn yields dried berries, seeds and nuts. This natural rhythm ensures that bread reflects the landscape and cycles of the year. The variations introduce diversity into daily meals, breaking monotony and reinforcing awareness of nature's bounty. Bread in this sense becomes a living document of time and place, capturing the environment and translating it into nourishment that is both sustaining and culturally expressive. The communal aspect of flavoring bread is equally significant. Elders may demonstrate the proper preparation of herbs, the selection of seeds, and the careful integration of additives, while younger members observe and participate. Sharing knowledge in this way strengthens household cohesion, passing not only technical skill, but also aesthetic appreciation and cultural memory. Every loaf thus carries multiple layers of learning, from practical sustenance to sensory refinement, social engagement, and heritage preservation. Experimentation is encouraged, fostering both creativity and problem solving. Adjustments in proportion, mixing techniques, and baking methods are carefully noted, and successful variations become part of the household repertoire. This iterative process illustrates the Vikings' adaptive intelligence, transforming basic necessities into expressions of ingenuity. Flavoring bread is therefore both a practical skill and a subtle art, a bridge between survival and culture, labor and creativity, daily life and storytelling. Finally, the act of enhancing bread enriches the human experience itself. It transforms routine sustenance into moments of connection, curiosity, and delight. The simple inclusion of herbs, seeds, or natural sweeteners, elevates a humble staple into an object of care, reflection, and sensory pleasure. In doing so, the Vikings demonstrate that necessity and artistry are not mutually exclusive. Even in the most utilitarian contexts, human ingenuity seeks beauty, flavor, and resonance. Through these small yet meaningful choices, flatbread becomes a narrative of landscape, culture, and human creativity. Each loaf carries sensory complexity, nutritional value, and historical resonance, connecting individuals to their environment, family, and tradition. The flavors and textures embedded in the bread echo the rhythms of Viking life, illustrating how practical necessity can coexist with aesthetic pleasure, and how nourishment can become a quiet, immersive celebration of ingenuity and cultural memory. In the Viking world, bread was not merely a household staple, it was an essential companion on journeys, voyages, and raids. Beyond the hearth and longhouse, the harsh northern landscapes demanded sustenance that could endure rivers, forests, and open seas. Flatbreads, dense and durable, became the lifeline of travelers, a portable source of energy that could withstand days or weeks away from home. Imagine a longship slicing through cold waters, sails taut, and warriors clutching bundles of hardened yet nourishing flatbreads, ready to fuel their muscles and spirits during the trials ahead. Preparation for travel begins with careful selection and baking. Bread intended for long journeys is baked slightly drier and firmer than everyday loaves, ensuring longevity and resistance to spoilage. Stones, embers, and cauldrons are employed with precision, creating a texture that is both sturdy and portable. The Vikings judge readiness through careful observation. The sound of tapping the loaf, the firmness of its structure, and the absence of excess moisture all signal that it is suitable for storage and travel. Each loaf carries within it the knowledge and care of its makers, a tangible expression of foresight and preparation. Once baked, the bread is stored with attention to environment and handling. Bundles are wrapped in cloth or leaves, protecting loaves from moisture, dirt, and pests. In some cases, bread is stacked carefully in small baskets or wooden boxes, designed to fit within longships, wagons, or pack animals. These storage methods ensure that the bread remains functional and nourishing over time, even in conditions that are far less predictable than the controlled environment of the longhouse. The portability of bread demonstrates the Vikings' practical ingenuity, transforming a simple staple into a reliable provision for survival. The role of bread during travel extends beyond mere sustenance. Flatbreads serve as tools for rationing, allowing travelers to manage energy intake and prevent hunger over extended periods. Portions are divided thoughtfully, ensuring that supplies last until the next opportunity to bake or gather food arises. This careful planning fosters discipline and awareness, reinforcing the connection between observation, labor, and survival. Each loaf carries more than calories. It carries the assurance of preparedness, the quiet knowledge that the journey can continue despite uncertainty. Bread also complements other preserved provisions. Dried fish, salted meat, and root vegetables are often carried alongside flatbreads, creating balanced portable meals. The dense texture of bread allows it to absorb flavors from soups or stews prepared on the go, enhancing both taste and satisfaction. In this way, flatbreads are multifunctional. They sustain, support, and enrich other foods, illustrating the thoughtful integration of ingredients and resources. Even in the simplest meals, Vikings demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of nutrition, practicality, and culinary harmony. The social dimension of travel provisions is equally important. Bread is shared among the crew, fostering cooperation, morale, and communal strength. In the close quarters of longships, each loaf represents both personal sustenance and collective responsibility. Elders or experienced travelers often oversee distribution, ensuring that resources are allocated fairly and efficiently. In moments of scarcity, the act of sharing bread reinforces bonds and sustains morale, transforming simple sustenance into a vehicle for social cohesion and trust. It is a quiet, powerful reminder that survival is both individual and communal. Preparation for raiding or trading journeys also involves careful timing. Bread is baked and stored ahead of departure, often in anticipation of long periods without access to fresh ingredients. This planning requires foresight and understanding of seasonal cycles, ensuring that sufficient provisions are available for the demands of travel. Vikings must balance daily consumption with storage needs, adjusting production to match both immediate and long-term requirements. In this way, bread becomes a strategic asset, extending its influence beyond mere nourishment into the realm of logistical planning and survival strategy. Even during the journey, care continues. Flatbreads are inspected periodically, portions rotated, and moisture monitored. Travelers develop an intuitive sense for preserving bread on the move, placing it in areas of the ship or wagon that remain dry and protected. These practical skills, honed over repeated journeys, ensure that bread retains its function and quality, even under challenging conditions. Through this ongoing attention, flatbreads become more than food, they are instruments of endurance, connecting preparation, labor, and vigilance in a continuous chain of survival. The sensory experience of bread on the journey is subtle but profound. The firmness under the fingers, the faint aroma that escapes from wrapped bundles, and the satisfying bite during meals all reinforce a sense of comfort and security. Even in the cold, damp, or strenuous environment of travel, these familiar sensations provide reassurance and sustenance. Bread thus carries emotional weight, offering not just nourishment, but also a sense of stability and continuity amid the uncertainties of travel. The portability and durability of flatbreads also empower exploration and expansion. Vikings traverse rivers, seas, and forests with confidence, knowing that reliable sustenance accompanies them. Bread enables raiding parties to maintain strength, supports traders on extended routes, and allows settlers to endure the first months in new lands. In every bite, the ingenuity of Viking baking transforms into practical advantage, bridging domestic skill with broader ambitions. Flatbreads, simple yet effective, are foundational to both survival and expansion, demonstrating the intersection of culinary knowledge and human aspiration. Even the quiet preparation of travel provisions reinforces values of patience, foresight, and careful planning. Each loaf, baked, wrapped, and stored with meticulous care, represents more than food. It embodies attention to detail, respect for resources, and an understanding of cause and effect. In training younger members of the household, these practices instill not only technical skill, but also character and responsibility. Bread becomes both practical sustenance and moral instruction, quietly shaping the next generation of Vikings in rhythm with the cycles of labor, travel, and survival. Ultimately, bread on the journey exemplifies the Vikings' remarkable ability to adapt and thrive. Dense, durable, and thoughtfully prepared, flatbreads provide energy, sustenance, and reassurance across vast distances and challenging conditions. Each loaf is a culmination of skill, observation, and foresight, transforming simple ingredients into a tool for endurance. The story of Viking travel is inseparable from the quiet ingenuity embodied in these loaves, the combination of careful preparation, preservation, and sharing that ensures survival, strengthens bonds, and sustains exploration. Through the lens of travel and raiding provisions, the significance of Viking bread becomes even clearer. It is a symbol of adaptability, planning, and resilience. Every journey is made possible, every expedition sustained by the humble flatbread, its dense texture and enduring quality, serving as a silent companion across rivers, seas, and forests. In these loaves, we witness the practical genius, cultural continuity, and quiet endurance of a people who understood that survival depends not only on strength and courage, but also on preparation, skill, and thoughtful care. Bread in the Viking world extends beyond mere sustenance. It carries profound cultural and symbolic significance, particularly during rituals and celebrations. Within the longhouse, or on the margins of sacred groves and outdoor gatherings, flatbreads are carefully prepared and offered, embodying both nourishment and reverence. Imagine a hearth surrounded by family and neighbors, the flickering glow of fire illuminating freshly baked loaves, their surfaces delicately textured with seeds and herbs. These breads become conduits for ritual, bridging the human and divine, the mundane and the sacred. During seasonal festivals, such as Yule or harvest celebrations, bread takes on heightened importance. Loaves are often baked with special attention, incorporating symbolic ingredients that reflect abundance, fertility, and gratitude. Caraway, dill, or fennel may be added, not only for flavor but also for their association with prosperity and protection. Sometimes, small decorative marks or patterns are pressed into the dough, creating visual symbols that carry spiritual or communal meaning. Each loaf, therefore, is both practical sustenance and a cultural artifact, imbued with significance beyond the table. Bread also plays a role in honoring the gods and spirits. In offerings, small portions of flatbread may be left on altars or outdoor spaces as gifts to deities, ancestors, or land spirits. The act is deliberate and respectful, a form of communication that expresses gratitude, seeks favor, or acknowledges seasonal transitions. Children learn these practices early, observing how elders present bread with care, speak quiet words of blessing, and ensure that the offering is made with attention and intention. In this way, bread becomes a medium through which cultural knowledge, spiritual awareness, and communal values are transmitted. Feasting occasions further demonstrate the versatility and ceremonial role of bread. During weddings, births, or other significant life events, flatbreads accompany meats, stews, and dairy products, serving as both staple and symbol. They are shared among participants, often broken in communal acts that reinforce social bonds and collective celebration. The breaking and sharing of bread mirrors both sustenance and solidarity, providing tangible reinforcement of interconnectedness and hospitality. In this context, bread is never merely food, it is a ritual instrument, connecting individuals, families, and communities through shared practice. Preparation of ceremonial bread requires precision and mindfulness. The dough is kneaded carefully, incorporating herbs or seeds according to traditional recipes, and often shaped with attention to symbolism. Circular shapes may represent continuity and cycles, while specific markings or indentations indicate family or clan affiliation. The act of baking, conducted over stone or ember, is observed with respect and patience, ensuring that the final product is both beautiful and functional. In this way, bread making is elevated from routine labor to deliberate artistry, blending practical skill with cultural expression. Children participate in these ritual practices as observers and assistants, learning not only the mechanics of baking but also the significance of intention, care, and presentation. They see how loaves are set aside, wrapped carefully, or displayed on ceremonial boards, noting the gestures and words that accompany each step. Through repeated observation and guided participation, young members internalize both practical skills and cultural meaning. The experience reinforces the idea that even ordinary acts, kneading, shaping, and baking bread, can carry symbolic weight when conducted with mindfulness and care. Bread also marks transitions and milestones within the Viking household. The first loaf of the season, baked from newly harvested grains, is often treated with special attention, shared among family members, or offered to spirits as a gesture of thanks. Likewise, the preparation of bread for travel, trade, or settlement carries ritual undertones, signifying readiness, foresight, and respect for the journey ahead. Each act links the physical product to a broader narrative of time, labor, and human experience, connecting ordinary bread to extraordinary significance. The sensory qualities of ceremonial bread enhance its role in ritual and celebration. The aroma of freshly baked flatbreads fills the longhouse, signaling the presence of care, abundance, and attention. The tactile experience, the firm yet yielding texture, the interplay of seeds and herbs, engages participants, creating a multi-sensory experience that reinforces both enjoyment and significance. Taste, aroma, and texture combine to make each ceremonial loaf a rich, immersive encounter, linking human perception with cultural practice in a subtle but profound way. Even in more solemn or contemplative contexts, bread carries symbolic resonance. During memorials or moments of reflection, loaves may be offered quietly, breaking the silence with gestures of care and remembrance. The act conveys continuity, linking present individuals with past generations and shared traditions. In these moments, bread embodies stability, endurance, and memory, transforming an ordinary object into a vessel of cultural and emotional meaning. Its presence reassures, comforts, and connects across both space and time. The communal preparation and consumption of bread during celebrations also reinforce social cohesion. Everyone in the household or gathering contributes, from grinding grains and kneading dough to tending the hearth and arranging loaves for serving. This shared labor strengthens bonds, passing on both technical knowledge and cultural values. Participation in these acts instills a sense of belonging, responsibility, and continuity, ensuring that each generation inherits not only practical skill, but also a deep appreciation for tradition and communal life. Moreover, the integration of bread into ritual and celebration illustrates the Vikings' holistic approach to daily life. Nutrition, sociality, spirituality, and aesthetics intersect seamlessly, demonstrating a worldview in which practical labor is inseparable from cultural meaning. Bread embodies this philosophy, transforming humble ingredients into sustenance, artistry, and symbolic expression simultaneously. In every loaf, the labor, attention, and intention of the household converge, creating objects that nourish body, mind, and spirit alike. Ultimately, bread in Viking rituals and celebrations reflects the intersection of necessity and culture. It is practical, durable, and sustaining, yet also deeply expressive, capable of conveying gratitude, marking milestones, and strengthening social bonds. From the careful kneading of dough to the thoughtful presentation of loaves, every step embodies mindfulness, care, and intention. Bread becomes a bridge between daily life and communal identity, between survival and artistry, linking human labor to tradition, family, and culture. Through these practices, we gain a profound insight into the Viking worldview. Bread is not simply eaten, it is observed, prepared, shared, and revered. It teaches patience, cooperation, respect, and cultural continuity. It nourishes not only the body, but also the spirit, anchoring individuals in both community and heritage. In the warm glow of the hearth, amidst the flicker of firelight and the aroma of freshly baked flatbreads, the everyday act of baking transforms into ritual, connecting Vikings across generations in a quiet, enduring rhythm of life, labor, and celebration. Bread in Viking life was far more than mere sustenance. It was a cornerstone of nutrition, energy, and health. In the challenging northern environment, where long winters, scarce sunlight, and rugged landscapes tested the human body, bread provided essential calories, fiber, and nutrients to sustain daily labor, travel, and combat. Dense flatbreads, crafted from barley, rye, and occasionally oats, offered both durability and energy, forming the backbone of a diet carefully adapted to environmental demands. Imagine a household waking to the soft glow of the hearth, each person reaching for a piece of firm, nourishing bread that will fuel them through hours of work, travel, or hunting. The grains themselves are rich in essential carbohydrates, offering a slow, sustained release of energy. Barley, a staple in Viking bread, is particularly effective in this regard, providing both calories and fiber. Rye adds not only density and durability, but also vitamins and minerals that support physical resilience. Even the simplest flatbread is therefore a sophisticated nutritional instrument, carefully balancing energy, satiety, and long-term health. The Vikings understood, through both experience and observation, that proper sustenance was critical for survival, endurance, and strength in a demanding world. Fiber content in these breads also played an essential role. It aided digestion, promoted regularity, and contributed to overall gastrointestinal health, helping sustain Vikings through periods of scarcity or heavy labor. Dense, coarse textured loaves provided more than simple energy. They supported physiological function and well-being. Children and adults alike learned to appreciate both the filling quality and the sustaining effect of these breads, linking daily nourishment to a broader understanding of bodily needs and care. In this, bread became both practical and educational, a daily lesson in health and survival. Protein and additional nutrients came from seeds, herbs, and occasional additives incorporated into the bread. Flax seeds, for example, contributed omega-3 fatty acids and additional fiber, while caraway and fennel offered micronutrients and subtle digestive benefits. Occasionally, small amounts of milk, eggs, or honey were added, enhancing nutritional content without compromising the bread's durability. These additions reflect a deep understanding of the interplay between flavor, health, and longevity, demonstrating that Viking bread was not merely fuel, but a thoughtfully crafted vehicle for holistic well-being. Bread also provided critical energy for labor and endurance. During fieldwork, harvesting, shipbuilding, or long voyages, the dense carbohydrates supplied sustained energy, allowing individuals to maintain strength over extended periods. Soldiers and raiders relied on flatbreads as portable, high-calorie food, capable of sustaining them through physical exertion and minimal preparation. In this way, bread became integral to both daily survival and extraordinary endeavors, linking nutrition directly to human activity, resilience, and achievement. Hydration and pairing with other foods were essential for maximizing health benefits. Flatbreads, often dry and dense, were consumed with water, soups or broths, enhancing digestibility and providing complementary hydration. This combination ensured that energy from carbohydrates was effectively utilized while preventing discomfort or fatigue. Vikings intuitively understood how to integrate bread into their broader diet, pairing it with protein, fats, and liquids to create balanced, sustaining meals. Each bite was thus part of a carefully considered system designed to maintain health, energy, and functional capacity. Children's growth and development were particularly supported by bread. Dense, nutrient-rich flatbreads provided essential sustenance, ensuring that young bodies could develop strength and resilience, even in harsh conditions. Observing the nutritional qualities of different grains, elders guided children toward dietary balance, teaching them the importance of moderation, portioning, and mindful consumption. Bread thus played an instructive role, offering lessons in nutrition, health, and the relationship between diet and physical performance that would carry forward into adulthood. The versatility of bread contributed to its nutritional efficacy. Loaves could be softened with liquids, incorporated into soups or stews, or consumed plain during travel and work. This adaptability allowed Vikings to maximize both calorie intake and digestibility under varying conditions. Whether on a long journey, engaged in strenuous labor, or partaking in communal meals, bread provided a consistent, reliable source of nourishment. Its utility reinforced its status as a dietary mainstay, indispensable for sustaining both everyday life and extraordinary feats. Observational learning reinforced understanding of bread's effects on health and energy. Younger members of households observed how different types of bread influenced endurance, satiety, and overall well-being. Lessons were learned quietly. A person with insufficient sustenance faltered more quickly, while those who consumed dense, nutrient-rich loaves maintained strength and focus. This feedback loop informed future baking practices, grain selection, and portioning, ensuring that nutritional knowledge was continuously refined and transmitted across generations. In this way, bread served as a practical guide to health, teaching cause and effect in tangible, experiential terms. Even during times of scarcity, bread maintained its critical role in health. Preservation techniques, dense baking methods, and careful ingredient selection allowed households to survive periods of limited resources without severe malnutrition. Bread became a stabilizing force, supporting physical endurance and mitigating the stresses of environmental unpredictability. Its reliability reinforced both bodily and mental resilience, instilling confidence that sustenance was available even in lean times. In essence, bread provided both physical and psychological sustenance, anchoring daily life with dependable nutrition. Bread also intersects with preventative health. Certain herbs and seeds included in recipes not only enhanced flavor, but carried mild medicinal benefits. Dill, caraway, and fennel contributed digestive support and subtle antimicrobial properties, while flax offered anti-inflammatory benefits. These inclusions reflect a sophisticated awareness of functional nutrition, demonstrating that Vikings intuitively integrated health considerations into everyday food preparation. Every loaf thus became a subtle, multi-dimensional tool for maintaining well-being, blending taste, sustenance, and medicinal awareness into a single practical artifact. Portioning and rationing were equally crucial for health and energy management. Elders ensured that bread consumption was balanced throughout the day, aligning caloric intake with physical demands. Young warriors or laborers would receive sufficient portions for activity, while smaller servings were allocated during rest or low-activity periods. This careful calibration reflects an intimate understanding of energy dynamics and physiological needs, ensuring that bread functioned not only as fuel, but as a tool for sustaining performance over time. It reinforced a mindful approach to eating, connecting preparation, observation, and consumption into a holistic system of care. Even in the intimate domestic setting, bread contributed to emotional well-being. Sharing a warm, nourishing loaf at the hearth fosters connection, stability, and a sense of security. The act of eating, slow and deliberate, provides comfort and rhythm to daily life. In this way, bread's nutritional impact extends beyond physical sustenance, influencing mood, satisfaction, and familial cohesion. It becomes a subtle grounding element, reinforcing the harmony of the household and supporting resilience in body and spirit alike. Ultimately, bread in Viking life exemplifies a profound integration of nutrition, energy management, and practical wisdom. Each loaf represents centuries of accumulated knowledge, careful observation, and thoughtful adaptation to environmental conditions. Dense, durable, and nutrient-rich flatbreads support labor, travel, and physical endurance, while fostering health, growth, and resilience. The Vikings' attention to ingredients, preparation, and consumption illustrates a holistic understanding of human needs, blending sustenance, skill, and well-being into a single quiet, enduring practice. Through bread, Vikings achieved more than survival. They sustained strength, nurtured growth, and cultivated resilience, ensuring that every member of the household could meet the demands of daily life, travel, and extraordinary enterprise. Dense grains, carefully baked, thoughtfully paired, and skillfully preserved, became a lifeline, anchoring the rhythms of labor, travel, ritual, and culture. In every bite lies not only nourishment, but also centuries of observation, experimentation, and human ingenuity, quietly connecting body, mind, and heritage in a seamless, sustaining rhythm of life. The story of Viking bread does not end with the last bite or the final harvest. Its legacy stretches far beyond the longhouse into history, culture, and culinary tradition. Each dense flatbread, carefully kneaded and baked over stone or embers, carries with it lessons of ingenuity, resilience, and adaptation. Imagine a Viking hearth long ago, where hands shaped dough with practiced skill, herbs and seeds were chosen with care, and loaves were stacked methodically to last through winter. Those hands, guided by knowledge passed through generations, created sustenance that endured not only physically but culturally, embedding the practice of bread making into the fabric of society. Through its durability and portability, Viking bread influenced exploration and settlement. Dense, preserved flatbreads were essential for long journeys, by river, sea, and overland, sustaining travelers, warriors, and traders alike. This practical reliance on bread enabled Vikings to expand their reach, forging connections across distant lands while maintaining nourishment and strength. Each loaf carried the invisible imprint of labor, observation, and preparation, translating domestic skill into survival advantage on voyages, raids, and settlements. In this way, bread served as both sustenance and silent companion, linking hearth and horizon in a tangible expression of Viking life. The techniques and knowledge surrounding Viking bread have left traces in modern understanding of historical diets and survival skills. Archaeological discoveries reveal remnants of grains, seeds, and baking implements, providing insight into both the practical and cultural dimensions of bread making. These discoveries highlight the Vikings' sophistication in using available resources, preserving food, and balancing nutrition with durability. Modern scholars and culinary historians study these artifacts to reconstruct recipes, methods, and the lived experience of daily sustenance, uncovering a rich narrative of human adaptation and creativity, embedded in something as seemingly simple as bread. Viking bread also embodies lessons about resourcefulness. Grain was a valuable commodity, and the ability to produce, store, and preserve bread efficiently reflects careful management of food resources. Techniques for drying, densifying, and flavoring loaves demonstrate a nuanced understanding of material properties, environmental factors, and human needs. Each loaf is a small testament to observation, experimentation, and problem solving, illustrating how a culture shaped its practices around survival and well-being. This legacy of resourcefulness echoes into contemporary discussions of sustainable food practices and the importance of understanding how humans adapt to their environment. The social and cultural significance of bread further reinforces its legacy. Flatbreads were central to communal meals, celebrations, and rituals, linking nutrition with identity, tradition, and social cohesion. They marked seasons, life events, and spiritual observances, carrying symbolic weight alongside practical value. In this way, Viking bread is not only a historical artifact, but also a cultural one, reflecting the beliefs, values, and rhythms of a people. Its presence in rituals, feasts, and everyday meals underscores its dual role as sustenance and storytelling, a medium through which generations communicated both practical knowledge and cultural identity. Preservation techniques developed by Vikings also influenced broader culinary traditions. Dense, dry baking methods, incorporation of seeds and herbs, and careful storage practices exemplify an understanding of longevity and utility that resonates across cultures and time. These methods informed approaches to long-term sustenance, travel provisions, and survival in challenging climates. In this sense, Viking bread is a bridge between the past and present, offering insight into the interplay between food, culture, and environment. Its legacy lies in both its direct impact on survival and its broader contribution to human knowledge about sustaining life in demanding conditions. The sensory and experiential elements of bread, its texture, aroma, and taste, further enhance its enduring significance. Even centuries later, the imagined sensation of biting into dense herb-studded flatbread evokes connection to a distant past. The tactile engagement of handling dough, the subtle release of aromatic oils during baking, and the simple satisfaction of nourishment resonate across time, linking modern observers with the lived experiences of Vikings. Bread, in this sense, becomes a medium of empathy and understanding, allowing contemporary audiences to feel the rhythms, care, and ingenuity embedded in daily Viking life. Viking bread also exemplifies the continuity of human ingenuity. Simple grains, water, and heat were transformed into durable, nutritious, and culturally meaningful food through careful observation, adaptation, and knowledge transmission. Each loaf embodies centuries of refinement, illustrating how everyday practices evolve into sophisticated, resilient systems. The principles underpinning Viking bread making, attention to environment, preservation techniques, balanced nutrition, and cultural expression, remain relevant, offering enduring lessons in adaptation, foresight, and resourcefulness. Its legacy is therefore both historical and pedagogical, teaching practical and cultural wisdom that extends far beyond its immediate context. The rituals and communal aspects of bread making also resonate as part of its enduring influence. Preparation and consumption were interwoven with learning, tradition, and social structure, fostering skills, identity, and cohesion. Families and communities shared both labor and reward, passing down knowledge, taste preferences, and symbolic meanings. Each loaf carries traces of these social dynamics, embedding community values, cooperative effort, and intergenerational teaching into a tangible artifact. This connection between sustenance and social life reinforces the broader significance of bread as a cultural anchor, a quiet, yet powerful element in the continuity of human society. In addition, Viking bread illustrates the adaptability of human practices to environmental challenges. Long winters, fluctuating harvests, and the demands of travel required innovations in baking, storage, and preservation. These adaptations reveal not only technical skill but also careful observation, planning, and experimentation. Bread making becomes a microcosm of Viking resilience, reflecting how daily labor, knowledge, and creativity intersect to meet both immediate and long-term needs. Its legacy, therefore, is emblematic of human capability to transform limited resources into enduring systems of nourishment and culture. Ultimately, the legacy of Viking bread lies in its multidimensional impact. It is simultaneously sustenance, cultural artifact, educational tool, and symbol of ingenuity. From the longhouse hearth to distant shores, from everyday meals to rituals, bread shaped lives, strengthened bodies, and connected communities. Its enduring story teaches lessons in resilience, resourcefulness, cultural continuity, and the quiet power of ordinary labor. By studying and imagining Viking bread, we gain insight into a people who mastered their environment, sustained themselves through challenging conditions, and left behind a rich tapestry of culinary and cultural wisdom. Through this lens, each dense, carefully baked loaf becomes more than food. It is a vessel of knowledge, a marker of identity, and a bridge between past and present. Viking bread teaches us that even the simplest ingredients, when handled with care, attention, and imagination, can support survival, foster culture, and inspire connection across generations. Its legacy endures quietly, but powerfully, a reminder of human ingenuity, adaptability, and the timeless bond between nourishment and life. Even centuries after the Viking Age, the echoes of their bread-making practices continue to resonate in modern kitchens, culinary scholarship, and historical imagination. Dense, herb-infused flatbreads, once crafted over stone and ember in the dim glow of longhouse hearths, now inspire bakers, historians, and enthusiasts alike. Imagine a contemporary kitchen bathed in warm light, where grains, seeds, and herbs are carefully measured, mixed, and kneaded, echoing the gestures of Viking hands long ago. This connection between past and present brings history to life, transforming ancient sustenance into a living, tangible experience. Modern culinary historians study Viking bread not only for taste, but for insight into daily life, health, and ingenuity. Archaeological findings, fragments of grain, baking implements, and remnants of hearths provide clues that allow researchers to reconstruct recipes and techniques. These reconstructions are meticulous, aiming to capture texture, density, flavor, and preservation methods that would have sustained Vikings through long winters, voyages, and labor-intensive days. By experimenting with these methods, contemporary practitioners gain not only an understanding of ancient diets, but also an appreciation for the resourcefulness, observation, and creativity embedded in these humble loaves. Baking Viking-style bread today invites both tactile and sensory immersion. The firm dough, interspersed with seeds and herbs, engages fingers in kneading, shaping, and pressing, echoing centuries-old movements that ensured durability and flavor. As the bread bakes, a subtle fragrance emerges, releasing aromatic oils from herbs and seeds, filling the space with a quiet warmth reminiscent of ancient longhouses. Even without a fire-lit hearth or communal gathering, this sensory experience fosters connection across time, allowing modern bakers to participate in a centuries-old rhythm of preparation, patience, and care. The incorporation of local and seasonal ingredients continues to honor the principles of Viking bread making. Herbs, seeds, and grains are chosen with attention to flavor, nutrition, and availability, reflecting the resourcefulness of the past while adapting to contemporary circumstances. Just as Vikings relied on the landscape for sustenance, modern bakers draw from local markets, gardens, or even wild foraging, recreating a subtle dialogue between human creativity and natural abundance. Each loaf thus becomes a bridge between past and present, connecting ecological awareness, culinary skill, and historical imagination. Beyond kitchens, Viking bread influences storytelling, education, and cultural engagement. Museums, workshops, and reenactment events invite participants to explore the sensory, practical, and social dimensions of baking. Children and adults alike observe and participate, gaining insight into historical diets, survival strategies, and cultural rituals. The act of preparing and sharing bread becomes a form of experiential learning, translating academic knowledge into lived experience. In this way, modern echoes of Viking bread foster empathy, curiosity, and connection, allowing contemporary audiences to step into the daily life of a distant time. The cultural symbolism of bread endures as well. Just as loaves once marked festivals, rituals, and social cohesion, modern interpretations often honor heritage and tradition. Historical breads are served at celebrations, workshops, and educational programs, linking participants to centuries of communal practice. The act of breaking and sharing bread continues to symbolize connection, hospitality, and continuity, echoing the communal rituals of Viking households. Each modern loaf thus carries layers of meaning, intertwining practical sustenance with cultural reflection and symbolic resonance. Modern bakers also explore creative variations, inspired by historical methods. By integrating seeds, herbs, and traditional grains, they experiment with flavor, texture, and presentation, honoring Viking principles while adapting to contemporary tastes. This process mirrors the original Viking approach, observing, experimenting, and refining to balance practicality, durability, and sensory appeal. In doing so, contemporary practitioners become part of an ongoing lineage of innovation, demonstrating that creativity, care, and attention to environment remain central to the art of bread making, just as they were 1,000 years ago. The pedagogical dimension of Viking bread in modern contexts is equally powerful. Educators use bread making as a hands-on tool to teach history, culture, and science simultaneously. Students observe fermentation, texture, and preservation, linking physical properties to historical necessity. They learn about nutrition, resourcefulness, and environmental adaptation, all through the act of kneading and baking. Bread becomes both medium and message, a tangible embodiment of historical knowledge that transcends traditional classroom boundaries. In this way, the humble loaf transforms into a vessel of learning, connection, and historical imagination. Even the aesthetic qualities of Viking bread continue to captivate. Patterns pressed into dough, the visual interplay of seeds and grains, and the rustic texture evoke both artistry and utility. Modern bakers appreciate these qualities, not only for visual appeal, but for their historical authenticity, bridging practical function with sensory delight. By attending to these details, contemporary practices honor the thoughtful preparation, attention to environment, and cultural significance that Vikings embedded in every loaf. Bread in this sense becomes a canvas, a medium through which ancient knowledge, taste, and creativity are expressed across time. The enduring fascination with Viking bread also highlights broader lessons about human ingenuity and adaptation. Dense, long-lasting loaves reflect centuries of observation, experimentation, and problem-solving, demonstrating how a culture could thrive in harsh environments through skillful management of resources. Contemporary engagement with these methods underscores the timeless relevance of adaptability, resourcefulness, and mindfulness in food preparation. Every modern loaf inspired by Viking principles carries echoes of resilience, ingenuity, and cultural continuity, reminding us that even simple foods can embody profound lessons in survival and creativity. Finally, Viking bread inspires reflection on continuity, connection, and cultural memory. Each bite of a reconstructed or inspired loaf links present experience with past practice, fostering awareness of history, environment, and human ingenuity. Modern bakers, historians, and enthusiasts participate in a quiet conversation with the past, discovering that sustenance, care, and creativity are intertwined across time. Bread thus becomes both a sensory experience and a vehicle of historical imagination, transforming ordinary ingredients into enduring lessons of culture, survival, and human creativity. Through these modern echoes, Viking bread continues to teach, connect, and inspire. It bridges centuries, linking hearth and kitchen, past and present, survival, and artistry. Each loaf reminds us that human ingenuity, observation, and care are timeless, and that even the simplest practices, kneading, baking, sharing, can carry profound meaning. In embracing Viking bread today, we honor both sustenance and legacy, discovering the quiet power of ordinary labor transformed into cultural, sensory, and historical richness. As our journey through the world of Viking bread comes to a close, it becomes clear that these humble flatbreads were far more than simple sustenance. They embody a remarkable fusion of practicality, cultural richness, and human ingenuity, offering lessons that transcend time. In the dim glow of longhouse hearths, Vikings shaped dough with care, selecting grains, herbs, and seeds that would sustain, nurture, and protect. Each loaf reflected the labor, foresight, and skill of its maker, quietly supporting daily life, travel, rituals, and celebrations. Through bread, the rhythms of survival, community, and culture became tangible, linking nourishment to human experience in ways both subtle and profound. Viking bread demonstrates the power of thoughtful preparation. Its durability, nutritional content, and portability reveal careful observation of environmental conditions and human needs. Dense flatbreads provided energy for labor, travel, and raiding, while also supporting health, digestion, and resilience. The inclusion of herbs, seeds, and occasionally supplementary ingredients showcases a sophisticated understanding of both flavor and nutrition. These loaves were never accidental, they were the product of intentional mindful effort, reflecting a worldview in which care, skill, and foresight were inseparable from daily survival and well-being. The social dimension of bread further illuminates its enduring significance. In communal meals, celebrations, and rituals, bread connected individuals, households, and communities. The breaking and sharing of loaves reinforced bonds, nurtured cooperation, and fostered cultural continuity. Each bite carried not only nourishment, but also a reminder of shared responsibility, collective memory, and human connection. Through these practices, Vikings cultivated both physical strength and social resilience, illustrating that sustenance is as much about relationships and community as it is about calories and nutrients. Bread also offers insight into the Vikings' remarkable adaptability. From long voyages across unpredictable seas to harsh northern winters, their baking techniques ensured that food remained reliable, durable, and sustaining. Preservation methods, dense baking, and careful storage demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of materials, environment, and human needs. Even in scarcity, bread provided stability and energy, bridging the gap between survival and flourishing. These practices reveal that ingenuity, observation, and careful planning were central to Viking life, embodied most palpably in the loaves that traveled, sustained, and connected them. The cultural and symbolic dimensions of Viking bread are equally profound. Beyond everyday sustenance, flatbreads marked seasonal cycles, life events, and spiritual practices. They served as offerings to gods, ancestors, and spirits, linking the domestic with the divine. Loaves carried symbolic meaning, reinforcing identity, tradition, and social cohesion. Through bread, Vikings expressed gratitude, celebrated milestones, and reinforced shared values. These practices remind us that food is never purely functional, it is deeply entwined with culture, memory, and human meaning. Modern engagement with Viking bread illuminates its enduring relevance. Today, bakers, historians, and enthusiasts recreate these loaves, bridging centuries of knowledge and experience. Through sensory exploration, experimentation, and reconstruction, contemporary audiences gain insight into historical diets, survival strategies, and cultural practices. Bread becomes a living connection to the past, a medium through which we understand resilience, resourcefulness, and creativity. Its tactile, aromatic, and flavorful qualities allow us to inhabit the Viking world, if only briefly, through hands-on sensory experience. Viking bread also teaches timeless lessons about sustainability, preparation, and care. By carefully selecting ingredients, observing environmental conditions, and crafting loaves for durability, Vikings maximized efficiency and minimized waste. Their practices exemplify how attention to detail, foresight, and respect for resources can sustain both body and community. In this way, bread serves as a model of thoughtful living, illustrating principles that remain relevant in contemporary discussions of nutrition, resource management, and environmental awareness. The enduring wisdom of Viking bread extends into education and imagination. Through reenactments, workshops, and culinary exploration, individuals of all ages learn about history, science, and culture. Kneading dough, observing fermentation, and baking flatbreads offer lessons in chemistry, biology, and human adaptation, while also fostering appreciation for cultural heritage. Bread thus becomes both a practical tool and a narrative device, linking learning, sensory experience, and historical understanding in ways that textbooks alone cannot achieve. Even in quiet reflection, Viking bread invites us to consider the intricate interplay between labor, culture, and survival. Each loaf represents the culmination of human observation, experimentation, and ingenuity, shaped by the needs of body, mind, and community. The careful balance of durability, nutrition, and symbolism exemplifies a holistic approach to life in a challenging environment. Bread teaches patience, foresight, and respect for resources, revealing how even simple acts, kneading, baking, sharing, can sustain more than just the body, nourishing culture, identity, and human connection. In conclusion, the story of Viking bread is a story of resilience, ingenuity, and enduring wisdom. It reflects a people who understood the value of preparation, the importance of community, and the power of simple, thoughtful acts. Dense, durable, and richly symbolic, Viking flatbreads nourished warriors, travelers, and families alike, bridging survival and culture, labor and celebration, past and present. Through bread, we glimpse the rhythms of Viking life, the care and skill embedded in daily routines, and the timeless principles of observation, adaptation, and communal responsibility. By exploring Viking bread, we are reminded that even the simplest elements of life can carry profound meaning. Ingredients combined with care, shaped with intention, and shared with others, create sustenance that extends beyond the immediate moment, nurturing body, mind, and spirit. These humble loaves connect us to human ingenuity, cultural continuity, and historical imagination, demonstrating that survival, creativity, and care are inseparable. The wisdom of Viking bread endures, inviting reflection, appreciation, and quiet admiration for the ordinary acts that shape extraordinary lives. As the warmth of the hearth fades and the aroma of freshly baked flatbread lingers in our imagination, we carry with us the lessons of patience, preparation, and thoughtful care. The Vikings' mastery of bread making continues to inspire, connecting us across time to the rhythms of daily life, the intricacies of survival, and the beauty of shared human endeavor. In this quiet reflection, we understand that bread, in all its simplicity, embodies the enduring power of knowledge, skill, and cultural memory, a gentle, sustaining rhythm that resonates long after the last bite.